praptasya kayana gunanavasya vande guru shri charanaravinam. Mahaprabhu kirtana nitya gita vaditra madhyan manasorasena. Romancha kampa shutaranga vajo vande guru shri charanaravinam. Shri vigrahara dana nityanana Shingaratan mandiramarjanado. Yuktasya bhaktam stanyunjatopi vande guru shri charanaravinam. Chaturvida shri bhagavat prasada swadana triptan harivaksha sanvyam. Chitraiva triptim bhajata sadaiva vande guru shri charanaravinam. Shri Radhika Madhava Yurapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna. Pratikshanasvadanalolupasya vande guru shri charanaravinam. Vande guru shri charanaravinam. Vande guru shri charanaravinam. Nikunjayono ratikeli siddhai yayali divyati rapekshaniyai. Tatrati dakshayati valabhasya vande guru shri charanaravinam. Sakshadaritvina samasta shastre uktastatthava yateva sadhe. Kinto prabhorya priya prasada bhagavat prasado yasya prasada nagati kutopi Jayam stuvam stasa yasasri sadyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Nityananda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nilamadva, Radha Nilamadva, Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jai Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Om Shri Bhagavad Pramhamsa Pradeka Acharya Ashtota Shatashi Shima Divine Grace the Bartender Vrinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Shri Bhagavad Pramhamsa Pradeka Acharya Ashtota Shatashi Shima Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridasa Ki Jai. Primitive Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadvaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory to assembled devotees. All glory to assembled devotees. All glory to assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Gaurapamanande Hari Hari Bol.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Narasimho Parato Narasimho Narasimho Parato Narasimho Yeto Yeto Yami Tato Narasimho Yeto Yami Tato Narasimho Bhaye Narasimho Hrudaye Narasimho Narasimho Hrudaye Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prapade Hamadim Sharanam Prapade Tava Kara Kamalavare Naka Adbhuta Shringa Talita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Brunga Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Tava Kara Kamalavare Naka Adbhuta Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Brunga Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare प्रहलादमयराजयो नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव भक्ति विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मी नरसिंह स्वामी भगवान की जय। भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
वृंदाय तुलसीदेव्याय प्रियाय केशवश्च विष्णुभक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः।
वृंदाय तुलसीदेव्याय प्रियाय केशवश्च विष्णुभक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः।
वृंदाय तुलसीदेव्याय प्रियाय केशवश्च विष्णुभक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः।
वृंदाय तुलसीदेव्याय प्रियाय केशवश्च विष्णुभक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः।
वृंदाय तुलसीदेव्याय प्रियाय केशवश्च विष्णुभक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः।
वृंदाय तुलसीदेव्याय प्रियाय केशवश्च विष्णुभक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः।
वृंदादेव तुलसी महारानी की जय।
श्री तुम्हार शरण लोय तरवांच पूर्ण कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी पाकोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोरा ये अभिलाष विलास कुंजी दियो वास मोरा ये अभिलाष विलास कुंजी दियो वास नयने हिरिबो सदा युगल रूपरासी हिरिबो सदा युगल रूपरासी एनी विधान धरो सखीरानुगत करो धरो सखीरानुगत सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दासी को ये नाम रहो दीन कृष्ण दासी को ये नाम रहो श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमी सदा ये नवासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमी सदा ये नवासी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पादे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पादे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे यानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी या वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी निताय गौरा हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। वृंदाये तुलसी देवी प्रियाय केशवशेचा विष्णु भक्ति प्रतिदेवी सत्यवत्यै नमो नमः वृंदाये तुलसी देवी प्रियाय केशवशेचा विष्णु भक्ति प्रतिदेवी सत्यवत्यै नमो नमः प्रियाय केशवशेचा विष्णु भक्ति प्रतिदेवी सत्यवत्यै नमो नमः वृंदाये तुलसी देवी प्रियाय केशवशेचा विष्णु भक्ति प्रतिदेवी सत्यवत्यै नमो नमः
Beloved Krishna, I bow down before you again and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes charge of your lotus feet has wishes fulfilled. Bestow mercy upon him and make him a resident of Vrindavana. My desire that you shall also grant me a residence of the precious growth of Shri Vrindavana Dham. Thus within my vision I shall always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Karma Danso's virtue. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays. May I always swim in the love of Shishratha and Govinda. Tulsi Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shriya Gairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Pradivardhanam Pradipadam Purnarmita Sadhanam Sarvatmastapanam Paramidayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahudha Nitya Sarva Shakti Tatra Pita Niyamita Smaranena Kalaha Eta Drishi Tava Kripa Bhagavam Mamapi Durudeva Midrisham Iha Janina Nuragaha Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadaharihi Nathanam Natanam Nasundarim Kavitamba Jagadishagamaye Mama Jammani Jammanishware Bhavata Bhaktir Haitukitvadi Ayinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitamma Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stitha Duri Satesham Vichintaya Nayanam Karadashru Dharaya Vadanam Kadkadarudaya Gira Purakai Nichtam Vapurkada Tava Nama Grahane Bhavishati Yugaitam Nimishena Chestusha Pravisha Idam Shunya Idam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me Ashishava Padratam Pinnastumam Kadarsanam Marmahatam Karotuva Yathatava Vitatatu Lampato Mad Prana Natha Susa Eva Na Paraha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which connected the heart of all the thoughts accumulated for years and extinguishes for our conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is prime benediction for humanity at large because Christ raised and benediction moon is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean transcendental bliss and enables to fully disconnect for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benedictions to human beings. Thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness enable us to easily approach you by your holy name, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maranjananda, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into this ocean birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean death and place me as one of the atoms of your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant the holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at a recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling of separation, I'm considered the moment to be like millennium. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and shall remain so if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything, everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter chanting holy name that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees or dedicate their life for the propagation of holy name of the Lord. demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to independently Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature of the literature in pursuance of Vedic virtue. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to the imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities, strength of chanting holy name. 8. Consider chanting Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualistic activities, often the Vedas as fruit activities, karma, kama. 9. To instruct a faithless person about glory to holy name. 10. To not have complete faith in chanting holy names and to maintain material attachments even after studying so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these sentences in order to achieve desired success. Krishna prayed. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances on all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Dear Jesitai trees and your preferred Dharma ones, therefore compassion for fallen conditioned souls. Vancha kalpatarubhyashta kripasindu bhavacha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Shri Mangala Charna prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Dhananjana Shalakaya Chakramitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swaham Dantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shta Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ratnatham Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vidam Shta Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Titi Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachakate Chatarine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shri Varshabhani Devi Dayitaya Kripaptaye Krishna Sanbandha Jnana Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Chara Premade Shri Rupanuga Bhaktita Shri Gaura Karna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaura Kisharaya Saksha Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padan Bodhayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumistvam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priyaha Vaishnava Savabhoma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhyeva Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaurapishe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakham Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Katha Kanta Namostute Jayadam Sroto Pangor Mamamanda Matergati Masarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Dide Vrindaranya Kalpadumadaha Shrimad Ranagara Sinhasanastho Shrimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Krishtarihi Sevamano Smarami Shrimad Rasar Sarangi Vamsi Vata Tataspida Karshan Venu Saner Gopir Gopinath Harshiye Sunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanuste Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet as such a spiritual master, who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy names, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments, the spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. A spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shishi, Radha, and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzed as that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked, When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada, he is satisfied to offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master. His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi Haribol. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Srimad Bhagavatam, Grantaraj Ki Jai, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, verse number 38. We're going to do this one again. Prabhu, you know how to turn the computer on for streaming?
Yes, streaming is happening.
It's happening? Okay, good. Ite deva kala Vishnu kala mayam salingina nanatvat swakriyan isha prochu pranjalayo vibhum. Ete, of all these physical elements, deva, the controlling demigods, kala, parts and parcels, Vishnu, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kala, time, Maya, external energy, Amsa, part and parcel, Lingina, so embodied, Anatvat, because of various, Swakriya, personal duties, Anisa, not being able to perform, Prochu, uttered, Pranjalaya, fascinating, Vibhum, unto the Lord. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The controlling deities of all the above-mentioned physical elements are empowered expansions of Lord Vishnu. They are embodied by eternal time under the external energy, and they are His parts and parcels. Because they were entrusted with different functions of universal duties and were unable to perform them, they offered fascinating prayers to the Lord as follows. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So this is talking about the demigods. They are the controlling deities of physical elements, beginning from the sky down to the earth. And all the inferior and superior qualities are due only to the final touch of the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they are in charge of the production of the different sensations, such as there is sound, and there is also there's sound, and then there's form, and then there's a smell, and then there's taste. So all these are called tan mantras. So therefore, the demigods are in charge of these elements that are manifested ultimately by the vision or the vision touch of Krishna. Without that, the different combinations to produce these tan mantras cannot take place. Okay, so it says in the purport, from the descriptions of the physical elements in the above verses, physical elements are Bhumir Apo Nalo Vayukam Mano Buddhirevacha. So in other words, there's earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Those are the physical elements that can be further expanded into 24. We'll discuss it another time. But these are so with each one of these elements, ether, in ether there's sound. So earth, water, fire, air. So in air there's touch, and fire there's form. Earth, water there's taste, and in earth there's smell. So the devas are controlling these things on behalf of Krishna. So it says, from the descriptions of the physical elements in the above verses, it is clear that in all stages, the glance of the Supreme Lord is needed with the other additions and alterations. In every transformation, the last finishing touch is the glance of the Lord. Now, there's a very important point here. That is that the Mayavadis reject the principle that the material world is produced by transformation of the energy of the Lord. In other words, they say there's only one energy, that's Brahman, and anything else is an illusion. It doesn't actually exist. This, of course, is a false philosophy. But they reject the idea that there's anything called transformation of the energy of the Lord, because then it would imply that the Lord has many energies. There's not only one energy like the Brahman effulgence. There are many, many energies of the Lord. Then there's three major categories: his internal energy, his marginal energy, and his external energy. The Mayavadis reject all that. They say there's only the Brahman effulgence, there's nothing else. So we see how the Mayavad philosophy is very incomplete, and therefore they never attain full love or bliss. They're always engaged in negating things rather than affirming things. So here, everything's being affirmed. And through this description of how the material world is created. And it's created by transformation of the energies, of some of the energies of the Lord. And he has infinite number of energies. It's not that he only has one type of energy called Brahman. There's many, many different energies. So, in every transformation, the last finishing touch is the glance of the Lord, who acts as a painter does when he mixes different colors to transform them into a particular color. When one element mixes with another, the number of its qualities increases. For example, the sky is the cause of air. The sky has only one quality, namely sound. But by the interaction of the sky with the glance of the Lord, mixed with eternal time and external nature, the air is produced, which has two qualities, sound and touch. Similarly, after the air is created, interaction of sky and air, touched by time and the external energy of the Lord, produces electricity. And after the interaction of electricity with air and sky mixed with time external energy and the Lord's glance over them, the water is produced. In the final stage of sky, there is one quality, namely sound. In the air, two qualities, sound and touch. In the electricity, three qualities, namely sound, touch, and form. In the water, four qualities, sound, touch, form, and taste. And in the last stage of physical development, the result is earth, which has all five qualities, sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. Although there are different mixtures of different materials, such mixtures do not take place automatically, just as a mixture of colors does not take place automatically without the touch of the living painter. The automatic system is factually activated by the glancing touch of the Lord. Living consciousness is the final word in all physical changes. This fact is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 9.10 as follows. These are all profound statements by Srila Prabhupada to help us understand how this creation is taking place. And he says, the automatic system is factually activated by the glancing touch of the Lord. This is what scientists don't understand. They know there's some mysticism involved in all these things. They don't admit they don't understand it. They say, well, if we don't understand that, we'll understand it in the future. So that's their cheating propensity. And the other main point is living consciousness is the final word in all physical changes. That's a major statement. In other words, matter doesn't organize itself. There has to be living consciousness, whether it's that of a human being who puts together oxygen and water, oxygen and hydrogen, and does different things and creates a molecule of water, H2O, that's water. It's made up of hydrogen and oxygen. But it doesn't happen by itself. You need a living consciousness who can make it work. So that living consciousness is either a jiva or ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Living consciousness is the final word in all physical changes. This fact is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 9.10 as follows. Maya dakshina prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetananena konteya jagat vibharivartate. The living consciousness behind all these transformations is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme living consciousness, the Supreme knower, the Supreme Controller, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Nadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. So he is Ishvara Sarvabhuta. He is Ishvara Parama Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his name is Krishna. So the conclusion is that the physical elements may work very wonderfully to the layman's eyes, that's meaning the eyes of mundane people, but their workings actually take place under the supervision of the Lord. It's not happening by itself. It's only because the Lord is behind it all, and he's the one that activates it. Otherwise, there's just dead matter. It doesn't combine by itself. You need the higher intelligence or the higher consciousness to make things interact and form different elements. So it's or different molecules. So it says here, those who can mark only the changes of the physical elements and cannot perceive the hidden hands of the Lord behind them are certainly less intelligent persons, although they may be advertised as great scientists. I'm sorry, I read the wrong purport, but that is important. So now we come to our purport. The controlling deities of all the above-mentioned physical elements are empowered expansions of Lord Vishnu. They are empowered by eternal time, under the external energy. And they are his parts and parcels because they were entrusted with different functions of universal duties and were unable to perform them. They offered fascinating prayers to the Lord as follows. So they have a duty to perform, but they're not able to do it yet. So what do? They begin to pray to the Lord to get his mercy so that they can do these very difficult tasks of creation and maintenance. So that should be a hint to us when we're faced with a duty that we cannot do. And every day we're faced with duties that we're afraid that we cannot do it. Like Ananda Mela. That's a huge duty. And it requires the cooperation of many, many people to do it. No one person can do it. So for one person it's daunting. It doesn't seem possible. But when a large group of people cooperate together, then what seems to be impossible becomes possible. But how do you get to that point of making of realizing it's possible? It's by regularly chanting and glorifying Krishna. Then Krishna gives you the intelligence and the energy to do the impossible. So we're seeing how the demigods, they think, how am I going to do this? Control all these things and make all these transformations and then maintain them. That's even the hardest part, is maintaining things. So they pray to the Lord, and we're going to hear their prayers now in subsequent days. And by praying and glorifying the Lord, they're not saying, give me this and give me that. They're glorifying the Lord and naming his transcendental qualities. Then the Lord, being pleased by their prayers of devotion and praise for him, he blesses them with the knowledge by which they can do what seems to be impossible. The demigods are expanded parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, and they are embodied by time, external energy, and partial consciousness of the Supreme. Yeah, they're not equal to Krishna. They only have partial consciousness. Like we also have partial consciousness, even less than the demigods. Human beings, animals, birds, etc., are also parts and parcels of the Lord and have different material bodies, but they are not the controlling deities of material affairs. They are rather controlled by such demigods. Such control is not superfluous. Okay, now superfluous is a good word. It means above things, or something that's separate. Why don't you look that word up? Superfluous, S-U-P-E-R. I can't hear you say it loud. You have a microphone here.
Exceeding what is sufficient or necessary, extra, not needed, unnecessary marks.
Okay, so such control is not superfluous. That means it is capable of being done. It's not beyond their ability. But to get to that point, they need the mercy of the Lord. In other words, he's saying it's not something impossible. It's not something above their pay scale, as they say in English. That's a statement. You say, well, this is beyond my pay scale. In other words, people are being paid according to the skills they have, right?
Yeah, there is one more adjective they are selling, surplus or unnecessary.
What?
Surplus.
Yes. So it is not superfluous. It is not beyond their ability. But in order to do that, they need the mercy of the Lord. Without the mercy of the Lord, they will not be able to do this. Okay. So such control is not superfluous. It is as necessary as the controlling departments in the affairs of a modern state. In other words, the demigods are doing things that are absolutely necessary. on behalf of Krishna, and they're getting the power and intelligence to do it from Krishna. The demigods should not be despised by the controlled living beings. They are all great devotees of the Lord, entrusted to execute certain functions of universal affairs. One may be angry with Yamaraj for his thankless task of punishing sinful souls, but Yamaraj is one of the authorized devotees of the Lord, and so are all the other demigods. A devotee of the Lord is never controlled by such deputed demigods, who function as assistants of the Lord, but he shows them all respects on account of the responsible positions to which they have been appointed by the Lord. So, the living entity, you and me, we don't say that defund the police. What? Defund the police? Well, who are you going to call then if there's a problem, you see? So devotees don't say, oh, the demigods, they're all nonsense. No, they respect the demigods because they have a lot of responsibility, right? But they are not controlled by the demigods. Who are controlled by the demigods? All the nonsense people. But the devotees are not controlled by the demigods. That's why they appreciate what the demigods are doing, because it's necessary functions so that the material world works in an organized and predictable way. So a devotee of the Lord is never controlled by such deputed demigods. So the devotee is not controlled by Varuna or Chandra or Surya, etc., but who function as assistants of the Lord. But the devotee shows them all respects on account of the responsible positions to which they have been appointed by the Lord. At the same time, a devotee of the Lord does not foolishly mistake them to be the Supreme Lord. Wow, that means all the people here in Seattle worshiping the demigods in the different temples, they're actually foolish. And all the people in India, all the pundits that are doing this puja, that puja, they're all foolish. Right? They're worshiping demigods who are simply the servants of Krishna. They should worship Krishna. So we see how so many people are bewildered in this world. Now, if they refuse to worship Krishna and they refuse a demigod, well, it is better than not doing it, like the atheists. Why? Because at least they recognize someone superior to them. So that's the beginning of, let's say, understanding Krishna. You begin by accepting there's people superior to you. It's like Shiva, or like Brahma, or like Chandra, or like Vivaswan, etc. So as soon as you accept there's someone greater than you, you're on the steps going up in the spiritual knowledge. But if you're like Jean-Paul Sartre, who says that we are condemned to be independent, that means there's no one greater than you. You are the authority. So then you don't make any spiritual advancement. At least the people worshiping the demigods, they're making some spiritual advancement by worshiping someone who's connected to Krishna. The demigods are definitely connected to Krishna. Right? Now, if you worship ghosts and witches and things like that, you don't make spiritual advancement at all. Even though you worship them, you're recognizing they're superior to you. But because they're basically demons, you don't make any spiritual advancement. But if you worship the demigods, at least you recognize there's someone greater than you, and the demigods have a connection to Krishna. So you're on an upward path there. But it's unnecessary. It's done out of ignorance. The demigods are all servants of Krishna. So if you worship Krishna, all the demigods will be satisfied. Okay. So a devotee of the Lord is never controlled by such deputed demigods, who function as assistants of the Lord, but he shows them all respects on account of the responsible positions to which they have been appointed by the Lord. At the same time, a devotee of the Lord does not foolishly mistake them to be the Supreme Lord. Only foolish persons accept the demigods as being on the same level as Vishnu. Actually, they are all appointed as servants of Vishnu. So these are all very important points Prabhupada is making. Anyone who places the Lord and the demigods on the same level is called a pasandi, an atheist. What does that mean? They don't believe that there is a supreme personality of Godhead. That's why they're atheists. They believe that there are many gods and they're all equal. Well, that is exactly definition of modern Hinduism. They teach it in school. They say, Hindus worship many gods. and they say, and the Hindus, I mean the Hindu pundits, they say, this is good. See, we were all inclusive, right? We don't say one is better than the other. They're all equal. Krishna is equal to Shiva, and Shiva is equal to this one and that one, and So they make up all these foolish things, and they say this is the strength of Hinduism, that we can accept all gods, right, equally. Have you ever heard that? Yeah.
I grew up, Maharaj, with this mentality that all gods are equal.
Yeah, and they say this is the strength of Hinduism. We accept all the gods equally. So, and this was another hodgepodge of Gandhi. He said that all the religions are equal. He went even further. So all the religions are equal. They're all good. Well, we're not saying they're all bad, but still, in life, everything is not equal. Like, you can't be an NBA basketball player. You don't have the height, you don't have the strength to do it. So how can you say everyone is equal? Right? Everyone has an eternal soul, yes, but everyone is limited by different types of bodies. So the body of a midget is not equal to a body of a giant. It's just the body is the limiting factor. Not now you can be a genius in the body of a midget. Okay, that's true, but still you're not going to be equal in every way to somebody else. Say there are always going to be people taller than you. So what do? You have to accept that everything is not equal. Maybe in some way you might be equal, but in other ways you're not equal. So this idea that everyone is equal is nonsense. Because everyone has a different type of body, and each body is limiting the person. Okay, so only foolish persons accept the demigods as being on the same level of Vishnu. Actually, they're all appointed as servants of Vishnu. Okay, so anyone who puts the Lord and the demigods in the same level is a pasandi, an atheist. The demigods are worshipped by persons who are more or less adherents of the processes of jnana, yoga, and karma. That is, the impersonalists, the meditators, and the fruitive workers. So the fruitive workers are the karmis, and the meditators, they are the jnanis, and the impersonalists are both jnanis and yogis. The devotees, however, worship only the Supreme Lord Vishnu. This worship is not for any material benefit, as desired by all the materialists, even up to the salvationists, mystics, and fruitive workers. So we say that people worship Balaji or Krishna or Rama or Lakshmi Devi. They worship them for material benefit. But here it's saying that the devotees, however, worship only the Supreme Lord Vishnu. This worship is not for any material benefit, as desired by all the materialists, even up to the salvationists, mystics, and fruitive workers. So the karma yogis, they have a desire. They want to be elevated to the higher planets where the sense gratification is better. And, those are the false karma yogis. They're doing karma actions according to the Vedas, but they have this material desires. And then the salvationists, those are the Gyanis, they want to be liberated and merge into the Brahman. And then the mystics, well, these are the Astanga yogis who develop the mystic powers, the 8 mystical powers. Devotees worship the Supreme Lord to attain unalloyed devotion to the Lord. That is not a material desire. That's a spiritual desire. Unalloyed devotion to the Lord. The Lord, however, is not worshipped by others who have no program for attaining love of God, which is the essential aim of human life. So, therefore, what is the real aim of human life? Prema Pumarta Mahan, the greatest achievement is to attain pure love for Krishna. So this is what the devotees are seeking, unalloyed devotion to the Lord. The Lord, however, is not worshipped by others who have no program for attaining love of God, which is the essential aim of human life. Persons averse to a loving relationship with God are more or less condemned by their own actions. So, averse, that means against a loving relation. So there are people that don't want to have a loving relation with Krishna. They say, who is Krishna? He's just a man that's a little bit better than me, but if I do some yoga, if I do this or that, I'll be equal or greater than him. So they have no desire to love Krishna. The Lord is equal to every living entity, just like the flowing Ganges. The Ganges water is meant for the purification of everyone. Yet, the trees on the banks of the Ganges have different values. A mango tree on the bank of the Ganges drinks the water, and the nimba or neem tree also drinks the same water. But the fruits of both trees are different. One is celestially sweet, so the mango becomes very sweet by drinking the water of the Ganges. And the other is hellishly bitter. The neem tree is very bitter. They're both drinking the same water, but one becomes bitter and one becomes heavenly sweet. The condemned bitterness of the nimba is due to its own past work, just as the sweetness of the mango is also due to its own karma. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 16:19, Tanaham dvisata kuran samsare sunaradaman shipam yajasram asuban asurisveva yonisu. The envious, the mischievous, the lowest of mankind, these do I ever put back into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Demigods like Yamaraj and other controllers are there for the unwanted conditioned souls and who always engage in threatening the tranquility of the kingdom of God. Since all the demigods are confidential devotee servitors of the Lord, they are never to be condemned. So we should never say, Shiva is nonsense. No. Or, Durga is nonsense. No. These are all great devotees, but they still have the desire to control things. That's okay. As long as they serve Krishna, eventually that last vestige of desire will be eliminated, and they'll only have the desire to love the Lord. So we see that Indra sometimes makes a mistake. Brahma sometimes makes a mistake. And so some of the demigods sometimes make mistakes because the mistake is they want to be the controller. But they cannot control Krishna. They cannot control everything like Krishna. Therefore, they will make a mistake and Krishna will correct them. He doesn't destroy them. He corrects them. The demons he destroys because they don't want to be corrected. But the demigods, like the demons, will make mistakes, and maybe the same mistakes that the demons make. But at least the devotee demigods are willing to be chastised or corrected by the Lord and assume their right position as servant to the Lord. Whereas the demons, they refuse to be corrected. See? So sometimes you have a child that refuses to be corrected, or you have a coworker that refuses to be corrected, or you have, a relative that refuses to be corrected. So such people are basically influenced too much by demoniac way of life. Okay, so I wanted to talk about something that's related to this. Now, the demigods are acting out of a sense of duty. And in many places in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also emphasizes the importance of acting out of a sense of duty. So, in the 18th chapter, 10th verse, it says, the intelligent renouncer, situated in the mode of goodness, neither hateful of inauspicious work or attached to auspicious work, has no doubts about work. What does that mean? It means a person in Krishna consciousness or in the mode of goodness does not hate anyone or anything which troubles his body. He does work in the proper place and at the proper time without fearing the troublesome effects of his duty. Such a person situated in transcendence should be understood to be most intelligent and beyond all doubts in his activities. This is very interesting. Why? Because such a person acts with a sense of duty. That means they are obliged to do something because they've been given a responsibility by Krishna. And they don't hate their duty or in any way anything which troubles the body. And he works in the proper place and at the proper time without fearing the troublesome effects of his duty. So you see, acting out of duty is a big responsibility. Just like a parent must act with a sense of duty. The wife should not say, well, I'm not going to feed my baby today, I'm tired. No, doesn't matter, you're tired or not tired. You have to do it. And the husband said, well, I'm not going to keep working in this job, I don't like it, I want to take a rest anyway. No, he has a duty to perform. Make sure there's food on the table. Make sure they can pay the bills so that the wife has a place to take care of the children. So we see acting out of duty is a spiritual thing. See? But the duty has to be related to Krishna. It's not that, I'm acting out of duty to follow this demon and he wants me to kill a devotee. What? That's not a duty. That's a sin. So we have to understand what is dutiful activity in Krishna consciousness. That is something that we're absolutely required to do. Now, if we understand that we're part and parcel of Krishna, then our duty is to serve Krishna, because he's the closest person to us. He's closer to us than anyone else because he's in our heart as Paramatma. And we were originally all with Krishna in the spiritual world. We walked away from Krishna, and now we're in the material world where we have a chance to go back to Godhead. So our duty is to serve Krishna, whether in the spiritual world or the material world. Okay, and then on the second chapter, 27th verse. Second chapter, 27th verse says, one who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So, our duty is never changed by the change of body. what does that mean? It means that in every body that we may have, our duty is to serve Krishna because we're part and parcel of Krishna. So that's our constitutional position. We are not really separate from Krishna. We can forget Krishna and act as if we're separate from him, but still we can never be independent of Krishna because he's always accompanying us as the Paramatma. So in this purport to 227 it says, one has to take birth according to one's activities of life. And after finishing one term of activities, one has to die to take birth for the next. In this way, one is going through one cycle of birth and death after another without liberation. This cycle of birth and death does not, however, support unnecessary murder, slaughter, and war. But at the same time, violence and war are inevitable factors to human society for keeping law and order. The Battle of Kurukshetra, being the will of the Supreme, was an inevitable event. In other words, it could not be avoided. And to fight for the right cause is the duty of a Kshatriya. So now we see the Brahmanas have duties, the Kshatriyas have duties, the Vanaprasthas have duties, and the Sudras have duties. Duty means something that you must do. Right? You cannot avoid doing it because it's part of your constitutional makeup. If we're part and parcel of Krishna, then our real duty in life is to serve Krishna. It's not to serve this one or that one. So then it says, why should you have to fight for the right cause, and that is the duty of a Kshatriya. Why should the Kshatriya be afraid or aggrieved at the death of his relatives, since he was discharging his proper duty? He did not deserve to break the law, thereby becoming subjected to the reactions of sinful acts, of which he was also afraid. By avoiding the discharge of his proper duty, he would not be able to stop the death of his relatives, and he would be degraded due to his selection of the wrong path of action. Whoa. So we can say that Bhisma Pitamaha and Dronacharya chose the wrong part of action by siding with Duryodhana. Well, they were sort of obliged by duty to do that. But the result is even though they were good people, but being on the wrong side, they were destined to be destroyed or to be killed. So we have to be very careful which side we choose. We should always choose to be on Krishna's side. Then we will be protected by the Lord. But if we decide to be on the demon's side, then we're definitely going to fail and follow the demons to Narak. Okay, so this acting out of duty is a major theme throughout the Bhagavad Gita. This is further explained in the second chapter, 31st verse. Let's take a look at that. And where it says, Swadharmam apichaveksya na vikampitum arhasi dharmyadi yudyach sheyonyat chatriyasya chavidyate. This is a beautiful verse. It says, considering your special duty, Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. Maharaj Arjuna is hesitating. Krishna is saying there's no need to hesitate. This is your duty. You're duty-bound to fight for the right cause, and that is to protect the principles of Dharma and protect people who want to be engaged in devotional service. So, now this is a very nice purport, and it's a long purport, and explains a lot of very important details if we want to be dutiful in this life. So it says, Out of the 4 orders of the social administration, this is called Varnashram Dharma, the second order for the matter of good administration is called Kshatriya. Kshat means hurt. One who gives protection from harm is called Kshatriya. Trayate is to give protection. So Shat and Jayate, Trayate connects into Kshatriya, to give protection. The Kshatriyas are trained for killing. The forest. A Kshatriya would go into the forest and challenge a tiger face to face and fight with the tiger with his sword. When the tiger was killed, it would be offered the royal order of cremation. This system has been followed even up to the present day by the Kshatriya kings of Jaipur state. So they're still doing this. Therefore, Kshatriyas are never meant for accepting directly the order of sannyasa or renunciation. Nonviolence in politics may be a diplomacy, but it is never a factor or principle. In the religious law books, it is stated, Ahar vesu mito non nyonyam. Anyway, we won't read the whole Sanskrit. And it says, in the battlefield, a king or Kshatriya, while fighting another king, envious of him, is eligible for achieving heavenly planets after death, as the Brahmanas also attain the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in the sacrificial fire. Therefore, killing on the battlefield on religious principles and killing animals in the sacrificial fire are not at all considered to be acts of violence, because everyone is benefited by the religious principles involved. Now, some gentleman read this, and he contacted me. And what did he say? So he wanted to know what his duty is in life, right? So now, it's making a point here that Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras have different duties, right? So when a Kshatriya fights on the battlefield and dies or is killed, that's a glorious thing. He'd definitely go back to the higher planetary systems because it's a glorious death. He fought valiantly, but he lost. It was overpowered by another Kshatriya. Okay, but he did his duty and therefore is rewarded for doing the duty. You don't get rewarded for not doing a duty. Right? Now, what is his duty? It's a prescribed duty by Vedic literature. So that's what we have to depend on. So there are 2 levels of that prescribed duty. And now we're going to hear about that. There are 2 kinds of swadharma, specific duties. These are not duties that you make up yourself. These are specific duties according to what your position in society is. You could be a Brahmana, you can be a Kshatriya, you can be a Vaishya Sudra, or you can be a sannyasi, or you can be a vanaprastha, or you can be a grihastha, or you can be a brahmachari. It depends what your position is. There are 2 kinds of swadharma, or specific duties. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of his particular body in accordance with religious principles in order to achieve liberation. When one is liberated, one's swadharma, or specific duty, becomes chanting, and it's not the matter. It's not in the material bodily concept. When one is liberated, one's swadharma, or specific duty, becomes spiritual and is not in the material bodily concept. In the bodily concept of life, there are specific duties for the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, respectively, and such duties are unavoidable. Swadharma is ordained by the Lord, and this will be clarified in the 4th chapter. On the bodily plane, swadharma is called varnashram dharma, or man's stepping stone for spiritual understanding. Human civilization begins from the stage of Varnashram Dharma, or specific duties in terms of the specific modes of nature of the body obtained. Discharging one's specific duty in any field of action in accordance with the orders of higher authorities serves to elevate one to a higher status of life. So, if you join the army, depends whether it's the Army or the Navy or the Air Force or the Space Force or whatever, you have specific duties according to the choice that you made. And if you have this material body, and and everybody is somewhat different, then you have a set of duties that you must perform in this body according to your nature, or according to the modes of nature that control you. Now, that's on the lower level, right? Just like you get married, you have to maintain your family. You can't be lazy and not work and expect your family to maintain itself. You have, because you fathered children, you have a duty to maintain them, wife and children, and often relatives on top of that. Okay, so the duties that you're obliged to follow are part of the Varnashram system, whether you're Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, or Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, or Sannyas. These are all duties leading to gradual progression, spiritual progression. So, but once you attain the level of not Brahmana, but Vaishnava, okay, now as a Vaishnava, your main duty is to always glorify and worship Krishna. Okay, as opposed to the Brahmana, his duty is to perform pujas and try and direct people toward Krishna consciousness. Not that they all do that. Some of them direct them toward just doing pujas so they can make money. So that's not a real Brahmana. Real Brahmana is someone who directs people to go closer and closer to Krishna. Okay, so there's the higher Swadharma and the lower Swadharma. The higher Swadharma is your duty to worship and glorify Krishna always. And the lower Swadharma is your duties according to the Varnashram system. So there's 6 Varnas and there are 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas. So according to which position you're in, you can have both positions. You can be a Brahmana Vaishnava. You can be a Kshatriya Vaishnava. Or you can be a Vaishya Vaishnava. Or you can be a Sudra Vaishnava. So that means that Sudra should work to help the 3 higher ashramas. But when you're a Sudra Vaishnava, that means that, you do your duty in serving the other 3 orders, but your main preoccupation is glorifying Krishna. It doesn't mean you stop serving others. It means that you serve others by glorifying Krishna and giving Krishna prasadam, giving Krishna katha, going out on sankirtan, etc. Okay, so you have a higher Swadharma and a lower Swadharma, or higher duty and lower duty. So while we are not completely fixed up in Krishna consciousness, we have to follow the lower duties. And when we become Krishna conscious, then we follow the higher duties. So what are these higher and lower specific duties? It says, when one is liberated, one's Swadharma, specific duty, becomes spiritual and is not on the material bodily concept. Okay, but the lower Swadharma, in the bodily conception of life, there are specific duties for the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas respectively, and such duties are unavoidable. Swadharma is ordained by the Lord, and this will be clarified in the 4th chapter. So, what time is it now? Yes, so we'll stop right now. Tomorrow we'll continue into the 4th chapter where the higher duties are explained. Okay. Are there any questions? So we have these 2 levels of duties, Swadharma, lower Swadharma, and higher Swadharma. It's important to understand this.
Hare Krishna Maharaj?
Yes.
Just one clarification. You said until one is fixed in
Krishna
Krishna
consciousness.
consciousness, that person has to continue to do the lower Swadharma. But
Yes.
whoever is fixed, my question is, whoever is fixed, that person will continue to do his lower Swadharma as well, right? Like he will do both. Or
Well, that's why I said there's such a thing as a Brahmana Vaishnava or a Kshatriya Vaishnava or a Vaishya Vaishnava or a Sudra Vaishnava. So, yeah, they do their duty, let's say the lower Swadharma, but they connect it to offering everything to Krishna. Okay, so they have no material objective. Their only objective is to please the Lord.
okay. Thank you.
So, such a thing is possible. I'm trying to find what it says in the 4th chapter. Let me see if I find it. All right, anyway, we'll do this tomorrow. Okay, so we'll have Guru Puja, Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bando Mui Savadana Mate Bando Mui Savadana Mate Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatoriya Jai Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya Aranakori amane asa Aranakori amane asa Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utamagati E prasade pure sarvasa E prasade pure sarvasa Shakshudana dila jay janme janme Prabhu say Divya gyan de prakasita Prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinasa jate Vedega janara charito Vedega janara charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu Lokenat Lokera Jivana Lokenat Lokera Jivana Ha Prabhu Koradoya Teha More Padachaya Ha Prabhu Koradoya Teha More Padachaya Ebeyas Kusaki Bhuvana Ebeyas Kusaki Bhuvana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Baro Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nita Gaur Hari Bol. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Pararajikachasta Tadasatadashi Shishimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shikoho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavana Ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi, Haribol. Nama Om Vaishnu Budaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutri Srimati Bhakti Vinata Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Vani Pachani. Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskati Desatani. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, defender of the poor, and Lord and Master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Vanicharya Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskati Desatani Gaur Premanandi.